Welcome to an extra episode of Salsidoparanormal, and tonight I'm talking about uh, novels and the paranormal, books and the paranormal. I'm your host James Salcido, and I've completely done that whole um, introduction out of order. You are of course listening to Salcido Paranormal. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me, at the podcast page, and that is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions. Our accounts of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust, happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord, or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds, or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of my show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Michael Strange and Troubled Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange for putting all my shows up on the station and having me there. As always, if you want to help the podcast or the show, my show here, you can share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can find books I've written, paranormal fiction and nonfiction, including my most recent release, Salcido Paranormal Experiences. You can sign up for the Patreon page and get 1 extra episode of True Paranormal Stories from the Web per week, whenever possible. And you can also just make one-time donations through Patreon, PayPal. There we go. And support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. So now that I've made it through all that, I am going to review a novel by Stephen King. It actually came out in apparently in booklets, almost like booklet size parts of the story. It came out in these miniature booklets that you could buy on their own, or you could get the whole box set. Or I'm pretty sure, I imagine eventually it was just turned into one whole book. But it was episodic. It came out in 6 parts to start with. And of course, this is The Green Mile. And as always with these reviews, if there will be spoilers, but I don't go into a ton of detail about everything, so it won't be. Hopefully, you won't be. I won't be spoiling too much. And I listened to this story a long time ago now, many years ago now, and I thought it was amazing. The just so much about it was really amazing, and yeah. So I thought we'd review that one tonight. And we'll see. This may have to be a 2-parter, and if so, that's fine. This is, of course, this came out in 1996. That's funny. It's right around the same time as that whole Age of Apocalypse story that I just reviewed in the comic books. So this is about it's by Stephen King, and the story is about a man on this death row facility, the penitentiary, and it is told from the perspective of a correctional facility. I'm not sure exactly how you say it, but someone in charge of death row in this prison, whose name is Paul Edgecombe. So Paul, he has an encounter with one of these people that is on death row named John Coffey, Coffey, who is, of course, on death row and is scheduled at some point to be executed. And so that's basically the 2 main characters in the story. this is again told by Paul himself. This whole story, so it's from his point of view, and it talks about him both as a younger man when all this happened, and then as an older man as well. So he is he's really writing all this down, this whole story down, while he is in a nursing home, at older age, and he's writing down these previous events that happened back when he was working in the he was the block supervisor of the Cold Mountain Penitentiary, death row. And this was back in the story anyway. It was back in 1932. So this area, of course, of this prison was nicknamed the Green Mile for the color of the floor's linoleum, apparently. And this was also when this prisoner, John Coffey, arrived. He was 6 feet 8 inches tall, so rather tall, and a black man who has been convicted of doing terrible things to 2 young girls, white girls, of course, because at this time there is a lot of that. This is, of course, back when racism was obviously right there in the open. So, of course, that's can be said that way now too. But anyway, this is talks about John Coffey. He has interactions with the other prisoners that are there, who I'm just reading this here again. So he has these. He's really the people there. The Paul and the other people that work there notice that John Coffey is not the same as the other prisoners there, who are there to make as much trouble as possible. John Coffey is not like this. And so there is at one point another one of the prisoners that's there. He has this. Let's see here. So it talks about other prisoners and their sort of the way they act and everything. And the rest of the book is also focused on the other guards. And this is Paul and these other guards are irritated throughout the book by this other guard whose name is Percy. And this guard, Percy, always enjoys antagonizing the prisoners, which is not something you really want to do, as a rule. And when Percy is offered a job at a nearby psychiatric hospital, everyone thinks that they're rid of him. But Percy refuses to leave until he's allowed to supervise an execution that's going on there. So Paul allows him to run one of the prisoners' executions. His name is Dell. And Percy deliberately avoids doing things the right way so that when they go through with this execution through the electric chair, it's not the way it should be, according to plan, and it doesn't happen as quickly. And so all this is going on while Paul is dealing with Percy and the consequences of his actions. Over time, Paul notices that John Coffey has weird abilities somehow to cure this urinary tract infection that Paul has. That, of course, is not obvious to anyone just by talking with him. But Coffey somehow knows about this and can sense it. John Coffey uses this power to revive the mouse of another prisoner who keeps this mouse as a pet. After Percy, of course, the one that is always causing trouble in this, ironically enough, always the one causing the most trouble in this prison. After Percy tries to kill the mouse and nearly does kill the mouse, and so, of course, again, as I said, John is very empathic and sensitive to the thoughts and minds of and feelings of others around him, compared to the other prisoners, of course. And so this goes on. There's other activities that go on throughout the prison, as they do with other prisoners. There's this one night where the guards end up. Let's see here. So the guards drug one of the prisoners, Wharton, and then put a straitjacket on Percy and lock him in the padded restrained room so that they can get John out of prison and take him to the home of the warden, because the warden's wife at this time has a brain tumor, an inoperable brain tumor. So they go against all their rules and regulations, and of course they go against what Percy wants, because he doesn't care about anyone, basically. They do all this, and they take this convicted person, whether he did it or not. They take this man to cure the warden's wife, which he does. He takes this. Really, what it is he takes this negative or this illness out of people, and then he somehow expels it, and it looks like bugs, I believe it was. But and then so they cure the warden's wife of this inoperable tumor, and when they get there, John doesn't let the sickness. He doesn't let it go the way he usually does, just out into the open air. He ends up transferring it to Percy, because he's been seeing how Percy has been acting and causing all this trouble with everyone. And in and of this itself, you can argue that this was not a good thing to do either, because it causes Percy to go insane and shoot Wharton, who is, again, on death row, but not supposed to go out in that way, obviously. And then Percy falls into a catatonic state that he never recovers from. And so he ends up being committed to the same facility that offered him a job before. He ends up being committed there as a patient. So, meanwhile, Paul is, because of all this going on and the way John Coffey has always acted, Paul has wonders and has suspicions about whether or not John should be there in the first place. And he's proven to be right about this, that John doesn't belong to be there, when he finds out it was actually Wharton who killed and did other terrible things to the two girls that supposedly John had been responsible for their death. So, and it turns out that John was in the area, and the reason he was seen by these two girls was he was trying to use this ability that he had to revive them, but they were too far gone. And so, and John, of course, confirms this later on, and tells Paul about all this that happened. So, and the Paul doesn't know what to do, and John tells Paul not to worry, as he is ready to pass away anyway, wanting to escape the cruelty of the world. Again, he's always had a hard time because, again, in part of, probably large part, because he was of the racism going on, and so he wanted to go. He wanted to leave the world, which so John ends up going through with the execution of, or not John, Paul ends up running the execution of John, and it's the last one that Paul ever participates. Because, again, he's just can't get over the fact that this man shouldn't have really been convicted or put away or executed. So, as Paul gets near the end of his story there, he wonders if he's getting ready to give this story to a friend of his to read. And after she finishes reading it, he shows her proof of some of this, at least to a degree, in that he still has the mouse from the prisoner that John Coffey had killed, and it's still alive up until just after he shows his lady friend. He shows it to his lady friend that's there at this nursing home with him. And so it had been there for the past 64 years. Now, I'm no expert on any of these kinds of things, the lifespans of mice or rats or whatever, but that does seem like a rather long time. Paul explains that anyone that was healed by John Coffey also gained an unnaturally long lifespan. That's part of why he's there at this nursing home when he was already an adult at the time in 1932. And in the story, he's writing this all down in 1996. So he's 80s, maybe 90s. And so his lady friend Elaine dies shortly after that, never finding out that on one day in 1956, when Paul saw his own wife's death from a terrible accident on their way to their granddaughter's graduation, Paul saw the ghost of John Coffey looking at him from an overpass. And of course, the book ends up with Paul all alone, and apparently at this point, 104 years old, wondering how much longer he will also live. So that's the book in general there. Of course, you have this idea of people having amazing abilities, and it being sort of a blessing and a curse, and in a lot of cases, just more of a curse than a blessing. It's a blessing for the people that they're around, but for themselves, it's not always so great. Because even whenever he cures anyone, he takes this sickness or whatever they have in a general form into himself and feels terrible while he's holding that in. And so it's, and of course, again, has this ability that would make him an outcast in a way in general society to begin with, and on its own. And then on top of everything that society has put upon him to begin with, in terms of normal problems and normal terrible ideas and thoughts. So, it was an amazing story. Of course, with King, it was very well done. All the characters, very well done. And I listened to that several years ago. I didn't hear it right when it came out. I think I found it at the local library, like in the 2000s at some point. But yeah, it's really amazing. And then you have in the end of that story there, you have what seems to be John Coffey appearing to Paul nearby, almost as if he was sort of. Of course, the question then is Coffee still connected to all the people that he heals as he heals them in some way? Is that why he appeared to Paul in the story at such a majorly traumatic point where Paul's wife was passing away, died in this terrible accident? Was he there because Paul was there as well? And I don't know, or was it just the event and that it's hard to say when it's just one sighting, as we often hear in experiences people have. When it's just one sighting in one case, it's hard to know why or how or any of these details. So, but yeah, it's. I thought it was a really good good book, which seems weird to say in a way, because it was it is sort of I mean, it is from a horror writer, and that is definitely there's some horror in that book. I'm just thinking about other books I will review at some point here soon. I should have kept that document open, but I have a list here of the other Stephen King books that I have read that I have not reviewed yet, and so I can go over those real quick and tell you all about those. But so we just did The Green Mile, and yeah, so we still have Joyland, Lisia's Story, Desperation, Christine, and Carrie to review. So I guess I'll be reviewing one of those in the last extra episode for this week of shows, and then we'll get to the rest of those as we do. I have another comic book event that I want to start reviewing after Halloween. I'm going to, I should say, also have a little bit of an update on the shows I'm going to do from now on. Well, not from now on, after Halloween. So every week, the shows I do, there will be one TV or movie review show per week. There will be one book or comic book review show per week. There will be one episode of Haunted Places in the U.S. And then, of course, there will be the usual two of the True Paranormal Stories from the Web for the regular shows, and then one of those, of course, for the Patreon episode of each week. So that is the plan, starting either on November the 1st or the 8th. I'm not sure yet. I might take that weekend after Halloween off, depending on how I'm feeling. But whenever I start back up again, that's what the new schedule will be. And I might work a special topic-based show in once a month, I'm thinking, just to not overload myself. Again, a lot of these things take research. But I've come across a couple of topics recently in doing these shows that I think it would be fun to look into. I just have to give myself a lot of time to get all that done. So yeah, I think that covers everything. So maybe we'll do, I see Christine there and mentioned in the chat we could do that one next. But yeah, thank you all for being here and listening. Please check out all the links in every episode description, and please check out the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear amazing shows all day, 24/7. And yeah, I'm looking forward to doing more of these reviews. Thank you all, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsidoparanormal. Take care.